You're muted, Mary.
Okay, now, okay, good morning. Welcome to all good afternoon. Welcome to all participants to this first webinar on the open call on citizen science initiatives on radon. And happy European Radon Day to you all. And we hope this is the starting point for engaging with RadoNorm. I am Meritxell Martell, and I am in charge of this call in the framework of the RadoNorm project. This is the first webinar for the open call, and we will cover the following. We have with us the coordinator of RadoNorm, Ulrike Kulka. Thanks, Ulrike, for being with us to briefly explain the RadoNorm project. Then we will have a short video from the European Radon Association explaining what radon is. Then I will briefly talk about citizen science and RadoNorm, and then my colleague Evgenia Tomkiv will explain the RadoNorm citizen science pilot projects in 4 countries, which have been already launched in France, Ireland, Hungary, and Norway. And then I will again present the aspects that you need to take into account for this open call. So the call opens today on the European Radon Day. We are very happy for this. And it closes on the 17th of February, 2023. This webinar, as you see, is recorded and will be uploaded on the RadoNorm website. We will have a second webinar, which will be on the 17th of January at 17 hours European time. Central European time, and we will open the registrations later on, hopefully this week. I will now invite the RadoNorm coordinator, Ulrike Kulka, to say a few words about the project and to explain briefly the project in a nutshell. Thank you, Ulrike. You are muted, Ulrike. No, I think it should work. No, you're muted again. You are muted and muted. We cannot hear you.
Does it work now?
Yes, it works now.
Oh, I'm sorry for the delay.
It's okay.
Thank you, Mary, for giving me the opportunity to present and talk about RadoNorm project, which is a great honor for me. My name is Ulrike Kulka, and I'm the coordinator of the RadoNorm project, as Barry already told. It is a big pleasure for me to welcome you to this first webinar about the open calls for citizen science projects. Actually, we have been very much looking forward to starting the citizen science initiative, where we get to support our stakeholders and interested parties in joining the RadoNorm efforts to raise awareness about radon and encourage people to test, prevent, and even remediate. Radon is a very current issue that society faces. This is also why radon has become a topic that is now addressed by the European Union Basic Safety Standards, and the EU member states are obliged to put in place measures that reduce the exposure of people to radon. Our members of Work Package 6, who are the organizers of the RadoNorm citizen science initiatives, have been already heavily involved in conducting workshops and discussions with the public in order to see how the public perceives radon, how radon is communicated, and how people respond to the threat. The reality, however, is that very few people perceive that as a threat at all. In RadoNorm, we recognize that it is not just the efforts of the scientific community that can help in implementing the basic safety standards, but it has to involve the joint efforts of various members of society. This incorporation of various stakeholders is what gives RadoNorm the wholeness and make the project so impactful. So we are delighted to involve you in our efforts to empower you to be a part of this far-reaching project and help you make a difference in your local communities. We look forward to having applicants who are motivated and have a grasp of the challenge that lies ahead. We are looking for those who can think outside the box and are innovative in their approach to the challenge. Your ability to do this will not only determine your success in the application phase, but also encourage behavioral change in the public towards radon prevention. This makes it a very important undertaking. With that, I wish you all the best in the application phase and look forward to productive collaboration in the coming months. Warren John will now give you a quick feedback about the RadoNorm project. And I think this was now a mistake because I will give you a overview, sorry. So as you see, this is RadoNorm in a nutshell. RadoNorm, the whole title of the project is towards effective radiation protection based on improved scientific evidence and social considerations, focus on radon and norm. We have a grant number, of course. We have a lot of deliverables to deliver to the Commission. In total, it's 85 deliverables we have to prepare. We are 57 beneficiaries who contribute to the call. They come from 19 member states, plus Norway, plus Switzerland and the UK. The starting point was the 1st September 2020, and the end date will be the 1st August in 2025. We have a budget of 18 million euros from the European Commission. And the type of RadoNorm, it's a research and innovation action. That means that we can perform our own research and innovation activities. And as Mary already said, BFS is the project coordinator. So I hope this can give you a framework and what is will be done and what is the amount of RadoNorm project.
Thank you very much.
This, I give back to Mary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ulrike. And now, before we start with the citizen science call, we will show you a short video. I think it's 1.5 minutes from the European Radon Association. As you see in the chat, the video is available, but also we will share it with you. We'll try to share it with you. I hope it's ready. So we can see it now.
Radon is a radioactive gas which can rise from the ground and accumulate in buildings. Whilst radon is natural, high indoor radon levels are not natural and are a result of the way we design, construct and use our buildings. The only way to establish how much radon is inside a building is to perform a test. This is important as long-term exposure to radon can be dangerous. It's the leading cause of lung cancer in non-smokers and causes around 20,000 deaths in the EU every year. The World Health Organization stresses the importance of national authorities implementing programs to reduce exposure to radon. And as of February 2018, all member countries are required by EU legislation to have a national radon action plan, which explains how the issue is being tackled. For example, setting reference levels, specifying strategies, and raising public awareness. The European Radon Association is a non-profit organization uniting professionals from the public and private sectors working towards the common goal of reducing radon exposure.
Okay, thank you, Mandy, for showing this illustrative video with us from the European Radon Association. And now, after this moment, let me say a few words. Let me talk a little bit about radon and citizen science and why we thought citizen science was important for the RadoNorm project. So let's spend a few minutes on that. So citizen science initiatives, this is the process whereby citizens are involved in science as researchers, and they have the potential to really contribute to the implementation of, for example, radon action plans required by international organizations like the International Atomic Energy Agency or the European Commission through the Basic Safety Standards Directives, as we've seen in the video, or the World Health Organizations. So we like very much this image where it's shown a boat showing the citizen, the scientist on his own or her own in a boat rowing. So the scientist is usually seen as someone rowing alone, far away from the citizens. And the citizens here, you can see in the image, can help him or her in different ways, in different means. They can shout at him and show him or her how the wind moves or how the waves move, or they can even row themselves, or they can throw a tire and a rope, and let him and help him. So there are many possibilities in which these citizens could help the scientist to reach the point where he wants to go. So this is what citizen science is really, the active engagement of the general public to help citizens. This is a really flexible concept, and it's an umbrella concept for different ways in which the citizens can be involved in the scientific activities and can be adapted to different situations, to different contexts, to different disciplines. As you see here on the right-hand side of the slide, we can see different levels of participation of citizens in scientific activities. And it has been really recognized that citizen science can prompt behavioral change by citizens taking measurements, for example, or promoting mitigation actions. So citizen science can be extremely valuable in facilitating access to data for researchers. As I said, there are different typologies. Here we see one of the typologies proposed by Muki Hakleis from level 1 to level 4, so 4 levels here. So the first level is seen as crowdsourcing, whereby citizens are considered as censors. So they have limited involvement in the science activities, the simplest form of participation, but they have no influence on the project design. They have limited understanding of the whole project, but in this case, they contribute to the scientific project more in a passive way. For example, they can use their machines, their computer, they can take computing tasks, and they can allow processing through their computers to assist in the scientific research. A higher level is called the distributed intelligence, whereby citizens are considered basic interpreters of science. So they may take some basic training, they may collect data, they may carry out basic interpretation activities of this data. So voluntarily, they can think and they can help scientists with a different type of thinking. In the higher level, level 3, we have this participatory science, whereby citizens participate even in the first stages of the scientific process. So this would be in the definition of the problem, of the research problem, in the formulation of the research question, for example, in the data collection as well, in the data interpretation, and sometimes even in the publication of the results. So this requires the assistance of the experts in analyzing and interpreting the results, but really scientists, citizens are really more involved in the problem definition. And then the highest level is what is known as extreme citizen science or collaborative science, which emphasizes the citizen involvement in many core activities of the scientific process. So this could be the problem definition, the data collection, the analysis, the interpretation, the dissemination. And here the scientists, they act more as facilitators in addition to the role as experts. So level 1 is less input, whereas level 4 is really an extensive involvement and extensive engagement of the citizens. Sometimes the level of participation from the citizens can change over the same citizen science project, depending on the requirements of the citizens. But we see that this citizen science concept can be adapted to the different context, to the different projects. So we go to now the RadoNorm citizen science itself. So we started to think about this task of citizen science in the framework of the RadoNorm project by reviewing, mapping, and assessing past and ongoing citizen science initiatives on radon all over the world. So you can have a look at the RadoNorm website, where we shared one of the articles that we published on evaluation of citizen science contributions to radon research in the Journal of Environmental Radioactivity. You will see this posted on the RadoNorm website. Also, we share with you in this RadoNorm website a consultation which was carried out at the beginning of the project in September 2020 as part of the RICOMED conference on social sciences and humanities research on ionizing radiation. You will see that there is a consultation with experts on radon and citizen science. So our idea was to develop a sort of citizen science model for radon measurement and mitigation based on what was already available and improve this. And we are testing actually right now, the model in different countries, in France, Hungary, Ireland, and Norway. And my colleague Eugenia will talk about this in a minute. Some of these citizen science projects are still ongoing. Some of them are finished. So based on these pilot initiatives, we also wanted to open this call to build a network, to start a network of citizen science projects on radon, which is really new and innovative because there are not many of such projects. As you see in our article, we only found 8 of these projects and they were not identifiable on citizen science databases. So in the end, what we want with this project is to end up giving some recommendations for empowering citizen science initiatives based on radon. We are very proud that our radon citizen science projects are already in the citizen science databases. So the first one in the eu-citizen.science and in the scistarters. So you can also have a link into this through the RadoNorm website. So the timetable for the citizen science projects is really, we start today, as you see, the European Radon Day, and then we will have, sorry, apologies, it was too quick, a second webinar, which will focus more on frequently asked questions on the 17th of January. Then we will close this call on the 17th of February, 2023. The call closes on that day. And then from February to March, we will review all the applications that we have received. We will make a preliminary selection of the applications. We will have interview with shortlisted applicants. We will make a decision in April, hopefully beginning of April, on the funded projects. We have an advisory board, and we will surely tell you about this later on, which will help us to review the applications and to take a decisions on which projects will be approved. In April, May, depending on how it goes, we will have the negotiations. It will be in the form of a subcontract, and we hopefully will sign the agreement with some of the applicants, and we can already pay 50% at the beginning of the project. You can start this project in May already, the citizen science projects, but you will have also about half a year to start the project. So you don't really need to start in May. We will let you start later on up to October. Before October, you have in October at the latest, you have to start the project. And then later on, you will also have, in the second quarter, we will have a workshop of citizen science projects to explain all the projects which have been ongoing. We hope this timetable will go back to this timetable at the end of this presentation. But now I will give the floor to my colleague, Eugenia Tomkiv, to talk about the RadoNorm pilot citizen science projects, which are ongoing in France, Ireland, Hungary, and Norway. Eugenia, so.
Thank you very much, Mary. Yes, so it is my pleasure today to talk about some of the experiences and some of the learnings we've had while organizing this pilot citizen science projects in 4 countries. And this work has been ongoing for quite some time. We've been delayed by Corona, of course, as everything else, but we're now on we're now getting lots of progress and lots of interesting experiences and results. So I would like to share with you how we've actually developed them and what we've learned and what could be useful for you in development of your projects. Next slide, please. So first of all, we've spent lots of time in every single project just thinking about how can we actually, why would we do citizen science and how would we do citizen science in that particular country? And while all of us, we had an overall objective, and that objective was to actually have citizens and experts and scientists working together to help increase the rates of the radon measurement and mitigation in people's homes in our countries. In each of the countries, we actually had to have a specific objective. Which means like in each of the country, we had to really work with what we had as a local context. I mean, what was already available, what was already done, because it's really important to create some continuity. Yes, Mary, this was good. To create some continuity in the radon efforts and actually try to build on already existing initiatives and try to build on already existing systems, really. So in all of our cases, we had to, in the beginning, like brainstorm a bit. Do we already have a group that we could be working with? Or, for instance, has there already been a measurement campaign in the country? So we could then reach out to those people and try to motivate them to join our citizen science project. Perhaps there has already been some citizen science initiatives before in the area, and in Ireland that was actually the case. They've already been doing an interesting library project involving citizens and measurements. So there was already a pool of citizens we could actually reach out to. Perhaps in your country, you have some interest organizations, some volunteering organizations, some NGOs who are involved in questions on environmental health, on public health, on this sort of matters. So you already have active citizens who could be interested in participating in this citizen science project. Perhaps there are already tools and materials that are existing that help people, help guide people through the remediation process, but they're maybe not so accessible to people. Perhaps they need to be improved, and that could be a theme of an objective of your citizen science project. One could work with the high schools and the universities, especially perhaps with the groups that teach about radiation and teach about radon, and that could become an interesting part of the education. Or perhaps there are other related programs on the circular economy, and discussions on the natural radiation material in building materials. Or you could talk about, perhaps there are this kind of cancer prevention actions going on. You could, so the whole idea is to first, map out and see what is the context, what are the potential groups of people you could reach out to, and what are the groups you could be working with. Next slide, please. So in all 4 countries, we ended up having very different projects with completely different research questions, and also we were organizing them on the different participation levels, as Mary presented before. So if you can see, what you see from the table is that in every country we just utilized what we've had, and we've just built on that. And so in France there was an online tool that was already developed as a part of the previous project, and there was a measurement campaign there before, so one could just continue, continue the motion and continue developing, further on this tool with the participation from citizen scientists. In Hungary, the decision was to actually use the high school students and involve them in the project to help raise awareness on radon and promote remediation. And in Ireland, that has already had the citizen science measurement project in the libraries, so with the digital monitors available to all the local citizens that could be just borrowed using their library card. I think it's a really cool project. They've actually taken it like a step further, because they've developed sort of do-it-yourself packages, so both including the packages of materials and information, and then their project tries to explore how to adapt these packages so that they would be easy for people to use, and they involve citizens in this in sort of the development of this do-it-yourself solutions and information material. In Norway, which is my pet project, which I'm really happy to work with, we had to start from scratch. We didn't have any activities, ongoing activities we could build on. So we decided to completely flip it over and start from an open page and invite the citizens to co-design the project with us. So we started with the completely open question, and with this extreme citizen science that we are kind of like trying to aim towards. And the citizens themselves, they were the ones discussing the barriers. They were the ones discussing what would actually help to remove these barriers. How could we get more people to remediate, to mitigate radon in their homes? And based on their input, we have together created the plan for the project in Norway. Next slide, please. Thank you. So who could be your target groups, and who were our target groups in our countries? And well, the answer is that actually you have the different types of citizens you could involve in this kind of projects. But also it is important to remember that you could actually also have a mix of these citizens, because for every person, the point of interest is going to be different. So your project can be just focusing on people who haven't measured. The project can be focusing on those that have measured but haven't remediated. But if you open a project and it's really a co-creative and open for citizens to input on how and shape it and decide what we're going to be working with, you can actually trigger lots of various individuals that, because they're just interested in the questions of radon, or they just think that citizen science is fun. In our case, in Norway, we actually had one of the participants who came to the workshop was not having any radon problem at home. But it was just the aspect of science, and the aspect of being able to contribute to science that was really interest there. So you just need to be, creative and open to whatever, whatever citizens you can be involving. Next slide. Another really important things to consider in designing this citizen science project, we found the role of local actors is incredibly important. So if you can find partners in the area where you're going to be running the project, and typically, for all of our projects, it's a very specific area. It's a municipality, or it's a town, or it's a city. So it's really geographically, very specific. And just think through what kind of partners can help you reaching out to people. Sorry. What partners can help you to create sort of like a joint working space. For instance, local libraries have worked as kind of like a point of collection, both in Norwegian case and also in Ireland case. Perhaps you want to work with the radon experts, especially if you are developing do-it-yourself solutions or tools like what was done in France and what was done in Ireland. Maybe you could work together with the industry or with the contractors, they can help you devise better solutions. Again, other motivated science teachers that could really get a really cool project involving students off the ground and could really be the driver behind this work. Or local authorities and the national authorities could also help you in various contexts, and also local associations, and also lots of other local groups that can really be instrumental in reaching out to the right groups of people, or helping you with recruitment, or helping you with local resources. And another lesson that we've learned is that it's really important to reach people where they are. So for every project, we needed to see, okay, how do we actually find the people that we are targeting. So for instance, in France, where that already had a measurement campaign in an area, and they already had the tool that was developed in a certain area, and like a previous project building on, they could actually send the letters directly to all the citizens that have participated in measurements or lived in a specific area. So for them, it has actually worked. In Ireland, they've been organizing these open meetings about radon constantly at the library, you know, so that people would come in and listen to the lecture and learn about radon, and then perhaps be interested in joining a citizen science project. In Norway, we actually didn't have any of these very concrete lists that we could actually contact. We didn't have the citizens ready, you know, to be motivated. So we just went all in, and we tried various different ways of reaching our participants. And then it was also like a learning point for us to find out which ways worked. We have posted lots of posters around, but we know that they actually did, although really beautiful. I've designed them, I'm very proud of them, but they did not get us a lot of participants. However, placing an article in a local newspaper, which we have succeeded twice, has actually helped us. Asking snowballing in a way our participation, and asking our citizen scientists to spread the word and recruit more people that could participate in our project, that has helped enormously. Working together with the local authorities and asking them to share the information on their pages, so that we've had our municipality sharing information on their Facebook page, which we know locals are reading. That has really helped, and that has really got the ball rolling, and we got lots of people interested after that. So you really need to know what works in the area where you are. In some areas, it's going to be, you know, if people listen to radio on their way to work. So perhaps you need to get yourself on the or try to get yourself on the radio. And also working with the locals, it was easier to sell an article. Sell, I mean, I'm saying sell in a linguistic term. Of course, but trying to get featured in a local newspaper was possible because we had a local actor who was working with us, and they knew the people. You know, they know the editor. They know which newspaper is actually getting delivered to every mailbox in the town. So this sort of like local information and context is really important in order to get your recruitment going.
Yes, and also, if I may, Eugenia, also the
yes,
social media, right? You were telling me also how important was Facebook, or also you see here an image from Twitter of Healthy Wexford in Ireland, a local group really concerned about health, and who help the EPA, our partner in RadoNorm, to really spread the word and invite participants to the meeting.
Absolutely. That's what I mean with local context. We, for instance, our Twitter did not get us anywhere because we just didn't know of any local accounts that would help us spread information, and they were just like limited. You know, we reached some people, but we didn't reach the people in that specific area. However, that Facebook page of the local municipality, that was a real hit. So it's also very important to talk to your citizen scientists and ask them, you know, where did you actually find the information, so that you know so you don't waste your time, you know, for instance, placing targeted ads and wasting your money while actually people are somewhere else and they're getting information from somewhere else. So it's indeed very, very important if you could also ask some groups that you know are interested in a topic to spread it to their participants, or to spread it to their networks. And there are lots of other considerations, practical considerations besides, you know, the actual recruitment that are also very important. For instance, all of our projects, they have been delayed because as COVID was still very active, we could not have any of the in-person meetings. And we really wanted to at least start with the in-person meetings, because the kinds of relationships that you're building with people in person is very different from that online. And although now, even within our Norwegian project, we're having like Zoom meetings from time to time where we are just like talking through the small things, we would not have succeeded without first having met people, you know, really connected to them, talked to them in the informal way over a cup of coffee. And so you need to So you really need to think about how you would do that, and that's also that therefore it really helps to like narrow down on a smaller community where it would be possible to actually gather everybody in an open meeting. It is very important that you think through what kind of local stakeholders could be really useful. You know, other local contractors could be useful, other local authorities that could be useful, other local groups that can be useful, but pay attention that sometimes you need to be strategic about inviting local stakeholders. So for instance, perhaps it's not the best idea to invite local authorities who are responsible for radon outreach when in the group you're going to be discussing about what are the problems with the information that is being given to people. So if people really want to if there is need to be an open, safe space to be actually criticizing the authorities for, and trying to come up with the alternative, or come up with some feedback on how this thing should be done, perhaps it's not a good idea to have authorities on that meeting, just in order to not have this like power imbalance, so that people can be open and free and talk openly and share their concerns. Consider whether you could actually maybe partner up with the company that does measurements, or put it as a part of your project to provide measurements for free or at a discount rate. And because that can function as, that can in itself, it can help you recruit people for the project. It can function as a little like carrot for the, for the participants as well, so they get something out of it. But it also it's really important to measure. It's really, even if the project is focused on the remediation, it's important to measure before and after to actually be able to show the difference, whether the mitigation has helped. And it also helps to make project more inclusive, because if there is an expectation that people pay their own money to be a citizen science, because you'll need to measure first, it will really create a disbalance, and all the people who can afford it will be able to join. So just think about this kind of practical considerations. That is like a learning point from our projects. Another interesting aspect is other actually available contractors who can do mitigations at homes, because it's, you need to think about whether your project is feasible. Because if you don't have any contractors who can do the mitigation, then perhaps the project cannot, then it limits what the project can be focusing on, and perhaps you'll need to take a different approach and focus on a different aspect of the mitigation. Also try to see if you can align with some of the ongoing local programs, so then it can help you both recruit people, but also build your network, and it would actually really help you to save the effort in raising awareness for your particular project and getting participants. And also try to think through different opportunities for participation, because you can see people are different, they have different time limits, they have different schedule, they have different responsibilities. So some of them will be really involved. I can spend lots of time working on the citizen science project. For instance, especially retired people who have lots of free time to be involved in all these matters. But then other people would not have time for this kind of high involvement, and that should be okay. It should be okay for people to participate at the different stages. So not everybody has to do everything. Somebody can just help with recruiting other participants. Somebody can help in developing some material. Somebody can help on, writing a newspaper article about the project in the local newspaper. And all of this is okay. And this really helps reaching out to more people if they don't have to do an incredible amount of work. So just to summarize, some of the lessons we've learned and some of the challenges and but also some of the strengths and successes that we feel we've had. It will be challenging to define the objectives. And we've spent a lot of time debating back and forth and trying to map out and find the local partners in the respected areas, because it does take some time to figure all these things out. And then you need to work on developing a genuine citizen science approach, and Mary will be talking more about it as the conditions for the call, because it was also very hard for us as scientists to switch and let go a little bit and not have full control over how the project is going, and allowing people to co-create and impact on it, and not just use them as the data collectors, and to actually flip the tables and come on the same level. So that is something that you really need to think through when you're creating the project. Recruiting and motivating citizens is, of course, tricky because we are all busy and we all have tons of things going on, you know, there are more important things, or the more what feels like more important, more pressing things people have to deal with in their everyday life. Really try to see what works and what doesn't, and what is the successful outreach, because it's a really important learning point. As I mentioned before, it's really good to create an inclusive and safe environment so people can share their ideas, you know, they can be completely open, and create sort of like a trustworthy environment where things can be shared. At the same time, you also need to remember there's going to be different people joining, and we are all different people. We have different personalities. We have people who can talk non-stop, and you need to really make sure that when we are all working together as the group, as citizen scientists, that everybody gets to say something. You know, everybody gets to participate, and you don't have people like taking over the conversations, or you know, you need to kind of balance out like whatever eventually if the conflicts arise. It's even if you get citizens motivated initially to take part in a citizen science project, as the time passes, it's quite challenging to actually keep that motivation going. Especially as, for instance, now in Norway, what we are measuring. So we've started a measurement campaign. We have 97 people who are measuring, and we have we're going to have an open people's meeting in January, where we're going to be talking about the results of the measurements and about the remediation, and present the material we have developed to help people remediate. But in the meantime, it's really important not to lose these participants. So we need to make sure that we're actually having, you know, little meetings in between, that we talk about the agenda for the meeting, that we talk about who we want to invite to the meeting, so that it's not forgotten, you know. So because in 3 months with the Christmas in between, people might completely forget they were a part of any citizen science project. So that needs to be taken into account. And also finding the adequate timing for these meetings, you know, when should it be, how often? And I suggest it's really important to talk to the citizens themselves and let them decide and let them have an input on that. Radon is not an easy topic to talk about, so it's going to be challenging on its own. And also we're talking about mitigation. It's not an easy task, because it needs to happen in people's homes. So just be aware of that. And also there are some, if you are measuring, for instance, there's going to be issue. You know, you need to think through how you're going to deal with the data ownership, how you're going to deal with the data protection of the people, and also the ownership of the product that is eventually developed. But finally, I'll just mention some strengths, because this maybe sounds a little bit negative, but in reality, it's actually really positive, because my experience from the citizen science project work has been incredibly giving, because it really brings together people who have very different backgrounds and very different experiences and very different interests. And as we talk together, we really learn from each other, and they learn from each other. And, you know, just even having a meeting talking about the barriers for mitigation, and people were coming out of it saying that, oh, but I have learned so much just from talking about with all of you. It also is quite, this one of the strengths of the project is you get this like a joint project ownership and responsibility, that the people feel that they own this project as much as us. And also in the long term, we are going to create this European network of the citizen scientists that if you apply for, you're going to be a part of. And that is also really, really interesting. And I think we could learn from each other, and also all together contribute to a fight against cancer, which is also another strength, that this is something really real, and this is contributing to better public health. So thank you so much. And let's move on to the open call conditions.
Thanks a lot, Eugenia. Yeah, this is one of the things that I wanted to say, that it's really about learning from each other. So this is also a learning process for us. We are new into this topic of citizen science applied to radon. So we, excuse us if we don't have all the answers to your questions. We apologize in advance already, but we hope to learn from you, from the pilot projects, but also from your projects, and to build something together like this European network of radon citizen scientists. So with the open call, we go now to the big topic of today. We have what is interesting, what we can offer is that we have a total budget of 140,000 euros to fund citizen science projects. So we offer a maximum of 25,000 euros of funding per project to deliver these 6-month projects. So it could be from 1,000, you can apply from 1,000 to a maximum of 25,000. Funding will be distributed among various different European countries, including associated countries, and we'll come back to this in a minute. And there will be online support during the project from the RadoNorm partners, as you have already listened to Ulrike from the beginning. We are a work package 6 in the RadoNorm project, so we are a bunch of people working on citizen science and radon from different countries with different perspectives, so we can support you in the implementation of your project. We also offer, we have this RadoNorm website, so we offer promotion to your project through the website, through the social media. Also, there are RadoNorm conferences and workshops every now and then, so you can present your project and you can have inputs and feedback from the RadoNorm partners. Again, this peer learning and this networking is really important for us, and this will be facilitated through workshops, online tools, through regular communication with us, with other RadoNorm partners. The pilot projects have already worked on the toolkits, on these do-it-yourself toolkits. For example, Ireland is really focused on mitigation tools, so on mitigation materials, aspects. They have a video, so you will have access to these materials from the pilot projects. Who is the call for? Well, this is open to any organizations, to any associations or consortia seeking to promote citizen science on radon, or also on NORM, on naturally occurring radioactive material. So organizations either in the public or the private sectors, for example, nonprofit organizations, educational institutions, research institutes, universities, local authorities, companies, etc. Individuals cannot apply, so the applicants must be legal entities or consortia eligible to receive Euratom funding grants, or an associated country, and you have a list of associated countries also in the guide for applicants, which you can find online, and also I think it will be shared in the chat area. The consortia needs to appoint a leading organization, so not all the partners will be eligible, but only the leading organization through the consortia. They will submit the application, but all the participants are eligible in this consortia, but we need to have a principal communicator. Only one application is allowed per entity, either on its own or as part of a consortium. Again, check the guide for applicants, and if you are unclear, you can contact this email address, cscalls@radonorm.eu. Actually, there is an S missing, cscalls@radonorm.eu. And the RadoNorm partners can provide support to the applicants, but they are not eligible to apply themselves. The types of applications we are looking for, we are really focusing on projects addressing radon measurements and mitigations, but not limited to raising awareness of radon. We don't consider citizen science the communication campaigns on radon, so we want really a step further. I show you at the beginning the different levels of participation in citizen science initiatives. So really we are aiming towards the upper scales of the citizen science. So we don't consider an education course citizen science initiative. So we are really looking forward to receiving applications on the higher levels of this scale. Also generating new knowledge about radon and efforts to foster radon measurement and mitigation. The proposal may include dwellings, workplaces, schools, caves, naturally occurring radioactive materials in building materials, etc. So it's quite open. Also, we think it could be an asset, the connection with ongoing related programs. Eugenia was talking about it also, either connected to indoor air quality, to energy efficiency, to cancer. For example, one of our pilot projects in Hungary, which is connected to higher education institutions or to schools. So they are building sensors for indoor air quality and for radon as well, with the teachers, but also with the students, and they are bringing these sensors to the family houses as well. We have a broad inclusive understanding of citizen science. And this is where we are looking forward to having this inclusive understanding. So citizens-led or co-created initiatives are really of particular interest, and novel and their explored approaches are really welcome. So an example could be circular economy for norm. And we will prioritize citizen science applications addressing mitigation actions, because we are really interested in mitigation. In the end, what we want is really to mitigate radon. I mean, there are lots of initiatives on measurement, but after measurement, what happens? Usually what happens, the next step is often missing, either because there are no contractors or because people are not taking actions. So we are really interested in people taking actions, in changing the behavior of the participants. What is the funding for? So the successful applicants need to design, implement and present the findings from a radon-related citizen initiative over the course of these 6 months. And funding can be spent on salaries or incentives for the participants to participate, or on equipment. For example, as Eugenia was saying, consider giving out, borrowing or buying, purchasing dosimeters, sensors, radon membranes, etc. Also, the funding can be spent on consumables. So consumables means either catering for the meetings, translation documents, dissemination materials, etc. But here I have to mention that really in RadoNorm, we hope to be as green as possible, so not to spend money on papers, on printing papers, printing flyers, but trying to avoid these kind of things and trying to be more sustainable. Travel, again, the same issue, trying to reduce travel if possible, but we understand that in-person meetings, and if you need to fund the travel for people to attend the meeting, this is also eligible. And then we have this 25% of total cost, which is considered indirect expenditure. These are the costs which are necessary for implementing the project, but are not directly linked to it, but they can be spent on it. This is part of the funding. This can be the office equipment, the telephone, the copy costs, or the renting of the office, etc. So this is also part of the funding. Activities may not receive double funding, so there can be synergies with other sources of funding, including Horizon 2020 funding is permitted for complementary purposes. If you go to the RadoNorm website, radonorm.eu, you'll see a button with the basic information on citizen science. So if you click on that button, you'll see this background information where you can find, as we explained already, so this article that we publish on citizen science, on evaluation of citizen science initiatives. You will find also the expert consultation, which we had at the beginning, the recording of this expert consultation at the beginning of the project as part of the RICOMET 2020 conference. And then you have two subsections, one of the pilot citizen science projects, where the projects in France, Hungary, Ireland, and Norway are briefly explained. And then the subsection on the open call. And here in the subsection for the open call, you will see that you have the guide for applicants, which includes frequently asked questions, the template, so there is an application form, and also the declaration of honor, which you have to sign and date and send to us by the deadline. And then some background information, some material, a document on RadoNorm citizen science overview, which contains also communication plan for citizen science projects, which contains data management, intellectual property rights, ethics, all these kind of things, and also an explanation of the 4 pilot citizen science initiatives. Again, you can contact us through this email address if you have any questions or problems. So how to apply? You really need to read the guide for applicants before applying. This RadoNorm citizen science overview would be also advisable to read. You need to prepare this application form based on the template available from the website. Note that it has a maximum of 6 pages, so you cannot go over these 6 pages. There is a declaration of honor to be signed and dated to send together with the application form, and the deadline, as we said, is on the 17th of February. The application form contains the following sections. So there is a title for a proposal title that you need to choose. There is a brief summary, an overview of the project. And then there are 4 sections. One is the idea. So just share with us which are the strengths and the innovation of this idea that you have. Is it relevant to the call that we are proposing? What data will be collected? What data will be used? We hope that you will have an open approach so that you want to share all this data with us as well, with the RadoNorm consortium. Then there is a section on impact. So what are the expected outcomes of these projects and how is the project sustainable over time? So once the funding is finished, is this project going to be still ongoing for some time, or is this going to finish? How is the implementation going to be done? So what are the planned activities, and who is the team? Is this a consortium? Is this only one organization? Are you relying on someone else? And which are the resources? Which is the funding that you are asking for, and how are you going to use this funding? So the rules are that you shouldn't change the template for the application. You shouldn't change the page layout, the margins, the size of the cells in the tables. There's a maximum length of 6 pages, as I said. All the questions need to be answered in all these sections. The font size is also, you should use at least 11 and with single spaces. Annexes are not allowed. And any links to your website, to any previous work that you have carried out is also permitted. The budget, as we said, is for 6 months, and the amount is a maximum of 25,000 euros. If you want to use visual elements, tables, graphs, screenshots, whatever, charts, this is allowed as long as this is readable. And then IP and data, we understand you are not going to provide a full section on this, and we are not asking for this, but just for you to let you know that we expect that you will be the owner of the results and the outcomes, but and all the associated intellectual property, but the proposals, we expect that you follow an open approach and you share the results and experiences with the community, as this is also the aim of citizen science. So RadoNorm or even the European Commission may ask you to present this work as part of the dissemination and networking events. So we would like you to be open to this and to present your work as well. If citizens will produce data, the application needs to include a sentence about the details of the way the data will be managed during and after the project, and if relevant, any general protection issues. And then any communication shall clearly indicate that the project has received funding from the European Union. So we will provide you with the exact sentence that you have to use for that. About ethics, so that you know that we also have an ethics committee as part of RadoNorm who can provide advice also and can support on dealing with these aspects. So ensure that if there is an informed consent of any human participation. So there are instructions also in the guidelines that you can use, and you have to ensure that there is an adequate data protection practice in place to store any data gathered by or about the volunteers. How will be the proposal selected? We have an evaluation advisory board. This consists of 2 partners from RadoNorm and 3 external citizen science and mitigation experts. And this has been set up to evaluate the proposals. The review criteria, they are also available in Annex 2 of the Guide for Proposals. So 25% will be allocated to the overall concept of the proposal, the other 25% to the implementation part, other 25% to the impact, and the last 25% to the team. So who is proposing, who are the proposal, the consortium. The reviewers will provide an overall score on a 10-point scale, and every proposal will be evaluated by at least 2 different experts. The successful applicants will be shortlisted and will be invited also to an interview, and we will start the negotiations once this is definite. So our tips. for successful application is that you start by reading the guide for applicants before you start with the application itself. Be brief and to the point. You only have these 6 pages. The proposals should be in English, but also we understand, as it has happened in the other pilot initiatives, that the working language is the national language, so including all the documents that you share with the citizens, but the final summary should be in English, and RadoNorm partners will try to support applicants in these aspects as much as possible. So if we have partners from, or applicants from Spain, from Norway, from France, from Hungary, from different places, from Portugal, we will try to find RadoNorm partners to help you with this. You can use specific examples whenever possible, so bullet points, tables, graphs to bring your point across, as long as they are readable. And your proposal should convince us that you deserve to be shortlisted. You be realistic, so do not promise things that you cannot deliver, which is worse. So just be very specific, brief, realistic, and all sections in the proposal are equally important. Again, we will show you the timetable again. So we start today, and we still have a second chance to see each other, to have questions in the second webinar. As I said, this is a learning process for us as well. So I'm sure we will learn. We might not have all the answers to your questions, but we will work on them shortly before the call closes on the 17th of February. We will review applications, and then we will have a decision in April, and we'll start negotiations with you. We hope to start the citizen science projects in May and at the latest in October. Again, from all the questions which will be formulated now in the webinar and later on in either by using our CS calls at radonorm.eu, we will collect all these questions and we will regularly update a document which will be available on the website. We are working, if this is possible, in the form of a forum or a document. In any case, we will let you know. And also the recording will be uploaded on the website, and an email will be sent to the participants after the webinar when we have the video online, and also when we have this document shared with you, which will be a live document. So now I think we can start with the questions and answers. So it will be Tanya Perko, who is here in the chat area from SCK-SEN, and myself trying to respond, or Eugenia or some other panelist. So if there are any questions.
Yeah, Mary, we already got quite some discussion in the question answers. So 6 participants, they ask something or they share their opinion. In general, if I can summarize this, the question was, could a non-governmental organization be the main leader of the project in the country? Yes, of course, they are welcome. Also associations, organizations, but non-governmental organizations, they are extremely welcome to be also a leader of the citizen science project in your country. Then we also got some greetings from our citizen scientists from Ireland. They are happy to see that Eugenia pointed out their interesting projects in the library. And yeah, it was a nice discussion about this too. And we are also happy that you are following us also during this webinar. Then it was...
Tanya, can you show yourself? Because people don't see you. Can you turn on your camera?
I'm so sorry. Yes.
Okay, much better.
Okay, yes. And then it was a question from somebody who pointed out how is our collaboration with local authorities, whether local authorities in these pilot projects were facilitator or barrier for the citizen science project. And I could share our experience. I wrote that we informed always the authorities what we are doing, so they were informed about this. And at the point, they also got really interested, and they started to support also citizen science in those 4 pilot projects. And we have a really good faith into the authorities, because authorities are now dealing with the radon problems in their own country, especially with implementation of new basic safety standards on the national level. And we expect that local authorities can be also your partners later on, or stakeholders. Definitely they will be interested, and they will appreciate citizen science projects in their area. And then it was the question about the money, how much the citizens pilot projects costed, how much money we needed to support them. And I informed them about the 2 projects. One of them, it was around 10,000 euros, for instance, in France, where the costs were much lower. And in Ireland, because they are doing do-it-yourself and so on, we dedicated we dedicated 25,000 euros. And for the other countries, for instance, for Norway and for Hungary, at this moment, it's really difficult to say, but we expect, for instance, it could be, I mean, depends on this, what the citizens will decide. In Norway, it could be the costs lower, but definitely not above the 25,000 euros. And in Hungary, the costs will be probably 25,000 euros, because we put a limitation to the schools that they are involved, and they will use so much of material as we will give them. But Eugenia, you can also highlight.
Just to comment on the costs from Norway, so far in real money, we've spent about 2,500 euros on the tools. So we've offered free measurements for the participants, and we had a discount price because it's a municipality negotiated price. So that's how we kept our costs quite low. Otherwise, we got to use library for free. We spent some money, buying coffee and cookies and stuff for our meetings, but otherwise, we've the posters were shared by volunteers. We haven't bought any targeting. We've just had like a genuine involvement. So you can always think of what is actually necessary in terms of project. Perhaps some travel money is needed if one needs to commute to that particular place, if you're doing it in another area. But one can do a lot for 25,000 euros. That's definite. One can do really a lot.
Okay, so that was it in question and answers. I also don't see any hand, but now it's your opportunity. If somebody of participants has still a question or some doubts, now is the time. Otherwise, we see each other on the 17th of January.
Yeah, as Tanya said, now it's your opportunity. We also have representatives here from the different citizen science initiatives. So if you want to ask a specific question, how it went, something in Hungary or France or Ireland, so you can ask, and I'm sure our colleagues from RadoNorm will share their experience. And if not, as Tanya said, you can study the material now. You have time. You can come back to us with questions, and yeah, we'll try to give answers. Are you going to provide a link on the recording? Yeah, Konstantin, yes. Costa, we will provide the link. I think we will send an email to everyone who has attended with the link to the recording. It will be on our website on radonorm.eu. And also, as I said, we will collect all the questions that we receive.
Yeah, and there is another comment or the question: is it expected that radon mitigation solutions will have high scientific novelty in building and technical science, or the approach to increase the number of mitigation should be novel? Or is it more about overcoming state-of-the-art in the social science? Definitely it's not the overcoming the state-of-the-art in the social science. We are really focusing on the increased rate of the testing and mitigation, but this could be a broad aspect, whatever it contributes to this. So it's there, the technical novelty, yes, of course, welcome, but it's not necessary. So we can leave your imagination to you and just try. Or Mary, would you respond to this in some other words?
No, this was perfect answer. Okay. So I think we can, if there are no more questions, I don't see any more questions, not even in the chat, but still Mandy shared with you the email address where you can contact us. And if you think of other questions, we'll be happy to answer as well. And thank you for your time. Thank you to Ulrike, the RadoNorm coordinator, to Tanya Perko, the leader of this work package, and to Evgenia for sharing your experience, and hope to see you again maybe in January, and if not, to receive your applications shortly.
And happy European Radon Day.
Yeah.
See you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks, Ulrike.